Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to the JBDC Virtual Biz Zone. It's a brand new year. I think it's the first time that we are joining you for the new year 2025. So let me say Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for joining us again. My name is Sansia Campbell, and I am the Partnerships and Events Coordinator here at the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. So this morning, we are going to begin with our tax compliance series. As you know, the time for you to do a filing is coming up very shortly. And so we wanted to dive into the issue of record keeping. And so we have a very special gentleman with us this morning. He's an expert in his field. But before I tell you about him, let me tell you what the theme for this morning will be. It will be tech steps for good record keeping. And our presenter is Mr. Kari Sharp. He's the founder and CEO of Head Office Inc. Kari is a business leader with more than 25 years in fintech, focusing on creating and deploying innovative solutions for the finance and telecommunications industries. He is the CEO and founder of Head Office, as I said, the future of accounting and business management. And Head Office offers localized support for accountants and entrepreneurs in the Caribbean and the Commonwealth, right? And so he has prepared a very interesting presentation to share with us this morning as it relates to keeping good records so that when tax time comes around, you don't have to be scrambling to find out where your documents are. And as you know, we are in the period of digitizing our MSMEs. We are doing digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation through our Digital Jamaica project. And so this presentation this morning is fitting because you will get some tips as to how you can use digital technologies in your business so that you can keep good records. As is customary, the session will be recorded. And so if you know someone who wanted to be a part of this morning's session, but for whatever reason, they can't be a part of it, they can always tap into the JBDC's YouTube channel. That is at JBDC Jamaica on YouTube, and just subscribe. You can also binge watch because there is over 4 years of content from the Virtual Biz Zone on there for you. You can go on, search for any topic, and I guarantee you'll be able to find something that will provide you with some information that you need. As is customary as well, we invite persons to just drop your questions in the chat. Don't be afraid to be interactive. Ask questions for anything that you need clarity on. Again, thank you for coming, and I am going to now hand over to Kari, who is going to go into his presentation for you.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. I was going to just jump right in. So the tech steps are really very, very easy to do. The challenging part is to know what to capture. So it's about bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is the activity or occupation of keeping records of the financial affairs of a business, right? So everything that you do, your income, your expenses, everything that is in the business. But we're going to break it down and go into far more details in terms of what you should be doing. So what records should be keeping? The financial records and legal and compliance. So your financial records are things like your invoices, your receipts, your sales reports, physical and digital, credit card transaction slips, online payment forms. So if you pay for things like Google Workspace and so on, you need to keep those online records as well. And of course, if you're doing GCT, you need to make sure that you record your GCT as well. Expenses, all your purchases, utilities, and other receipts. Expenses are clearly marked, especially if there's GCT involved, to be clearly marked and labeled because that is relevant information that you need for your tax returns. Your bank statements, your current, your other bank accounts, if you have savings, investments, your credit card statements, those are very important. Your monthly reconciliation. Depending on your accounting, your business platform, your banking platform, you will need to either download those statements because they only give you access to 1 year or 2 years. So you need to make sure that before the time passes, you have those records in your possession. So find out from your bank how long they return online records for, and then make sure to keep downloading them, recommend on a monthly basis. There's also payroll, so all your employee contracts, their pay slips, timesheets, their P24, P45, and so on. In fact, the other day, I got a request from TAJ going back as far as 2018, I believe it was. So you need to make sure that you have your information on hand so that we can respond accordingly. And of course, all the returns that you do, make sure you keep a copy of returns as well. The corporate income tax. So you're doing your IT02 returns or IT07 and so on. Make sure that you're keeping those as well. That's very important information. Your monthly GCT returns, which is your Form 4A. Your withholding tax returns. So if you're withholding taxes for persons, you need to make sure you keep that as well. For persons who withhold tax on your behalf, you'll find those on a TAJ portal. Of course, any correspondence that you have with TAJ is very important to keep a copy of those, because if there's any issues with compliance, you'd want to be able to draw on that information. Let me know if I'm going too fast, or if you have any questions, please free to drop them in the chat. All right, let's continue. Also, when you do purchases, fixed assets, whether it be machinery, motor vehicles, etc., for your business, you want to keep those records, because then you need to be able to know how much the value was originally, how much you need to depreciate it by, as I'm going too fast. All right, thank you, Mitsy. All right, so fixed asset registry. So this is how you keep track of your assets. So your motor vehicle, computers you may have purchased. This is important because you want to track the depreciation and the value that you have it on your books. But not only that, Jamaica itself has something known as capital allowance that you need to know apply to this, because the Jamaican government does not recognize depreciation, it only recognize capital allowance. So what they say you should be doing. Sorry, question, annual returns applicable to partnerships. Annual returns are referring to company's office. You have to do annual returns. If it's TAJ, I believe partners have to do individual returns. But speak to an accountant about that. Chartered accountant. Yes, company's office needs to do annual returns. Thank you for that question, Sandra. Inventory, so your stocks that you're purchasing, your stock count, evaluation, and so on. Your business registration document is also important. Oftentimes you need to pull on it, and therefore you need to have it on hand so that we can use it for whatever purposes that you might need to. Articles of incorporation, your bylaws, if you have that, and your operating agreement. This is important for when you're dealing with internal things or external persons. They might want to know how your business was formed and what rules apply to your business based on your own laws. Of course, any business license that you have and permits, you also need to make sure to keep them as well. We'll discuss how you keep them shortly. Your lease agreements for your suppliers. The other day I need to do a notary public, and I needed to use my lease agreement with notary to get something notarized. So it's very important to make sure I have these documents saved and on hand. Any supplier or vendor contracts, if there's a dispute or something that you need to clarify, you want to make sure that you're also keeping those documents as well. So your customer contracts, etc. Your non-disclosure agreements, your partnership agreements that Sancho would have mentioned, and any other legal documents. All these documents are very important, and you need to make sure that you take care in storing them in physical or digital forms. So any other compliance documents, if you need to have logs from any system, an environmental or the sector regulatory things that might be specific to your industry or to your company, it's very important that you keep track of this. So how to choose the right method of storage. So it can be paper-based or it can be digital. So you need to keep track of critical documents. So all your tax filings, anything that's your form documents, any major contracts in preferably a fireproof safe. If you can't afford a fireproof safe, no problem. Just make sure you keep it somewhere safe that, we have hurricanes and so on, somewhere to keep them dry and keep documents safe, or probably store them in plastic if as needed. And then, of course, you can file stuff by category and, of course, by year. And I'll show you that in a moment, what that looks like. So you should consider cloud-based accounting solutions. I'll answer that question shortly, Rohan. Thanks for the question. Should consider cloud-based accounting solutions like head office, QuickBooks, and so on. But head offices, specifically built for Jamaica, whereas QuickBooks and these other things aren't. Also, in terms of storing the files online, using tools like Google Drive, Dropbox, and OneDrive is actually very good tools and very good places to start, because not only is it online, it's being backed up by these providers, it also allows you to share with your bookkeeper or your accountant as well. And then, of course, if you have it on your machine, then regular backups by using an external hard drive to back it up occasionally, preferably daily or weekly. And of course, if possible, you can have multiple drives and keep one offsite. So it's also important for you to retain these physical copies of crucial documents. And of course, if everybody has a digital phone these days, you can take a snapshot of the thing for storage as well. So just in case something happens, at least you have a digital version of it. Maintaining and organize consistent systems. So it can automate invoicing. So if you have an accounting software, so use accounting software, can automate invoicing, can extract expenses. You can use payroll solutions such as head office, such as MC Systems payroll system, ICO Pay, and so on, local payroll solutions. Head office is distributor. So I am the creator of head office, Charlene, and I'll give you a short demo at the end. This is what it looks like. So there's no distribution. It's actually built and made by Jamaicans here. So integrate your online banking solutions. Most banks locally don't have integration, so you'd have to download the transactions manually and then import. If you have a foreign bank as your bank, then you'll be able to link your software and pull down your information automatically. Of course, you should be tracking your GCT sales and expenses accurately. Or if you can't afford accounting software, at the very least, you should be using Excel. It's as simple as setting up probably 2 tabs to track money in and money out. So whenever you make a sale, record the date, the person, the amount at the very least. This is something that your bookkeeper accounting can then use to prepare your taxes, but preferably using accounting software. This is really like the bare bones, using Excel to track your documents. Not recommended, but if you can't afford it, then you have Excel or you have Google Docs spreadsheet that you can use for free. If that's what you can afford right now, but it's very important to record every single transaction, and I record as much details as possible. Use a clear folder structure by year, category, month, and so on. Step using, okay. Standardizing file names and so on. I'll show you at the end of this what it looks like, and I'll go a little bit slower. Can ask questions about it. So you need to make sure you update your transactions daily, weekly, and reconcile your bank statements. This is very important. Reconciliation helps you to see if things are missing or things have been done to your account that shouldn't have been done, like money coming out or interest being paid, etc., or fees. So I want to jump ahead right here just to show you kind of what it looks like. So this is Google Drive. So here you can see you can create different folders by month. So 2024, 2025, and your business documents. So for every year, you create a folder system. For documents that are physical that you have printed, you'd use your phone to take a picture and then you'd upload it to here. Everybody good with how this layout is done? Can you just drop a OK in the chat? All right, great, wonderful. So once you create your folders, now you have a different level. So this is 2024 folder. Now you break it down into categories. So you have expense, GST returns, payroll returns, utilities. Of course, you can have as many categories as you want if you want to track different things. All right, we're good with this? Again, let's drop an OK in the chat. So the tech part is really, really easy. Creating a folder just to store information. And then in there, upload a document. So this is GCT returns. Of course, this is some sample GCT returns. You'd actually upload your actual returns. If you printed it off from TAJ as PDFs because you want to store it for yourself, You can come and store everything right here. And you note that the naming convention, year first, then month, then day. So that way it helps you sort information for you to easily find the records. If you wanted to search across all the things, then you could, because it is named this way, be able to find it. So if you type GCT, all the GCT returns will come up. If you type 2024, everything would be shown. So naming things is very important. So, and a little more detail, we'll have payroll returns. So because you're doing payroll on a monthly basis, and there's a lot more details that probably needs to happen, then you actually store it, create folders, January, February, March, and so on. You notice that there are numbers before it. Simply this allows the system to always sort it in numerical order as opposed to alphabetical order, which January would clearly would not be the first month. Probably would be February. So no, April actually. So put the number before it, so that way it sorts it. So 01 January, 02 February, 03 March, 04 April, and so on. Is that clear? And then when you go deeper into that node, the 01, you can actually have the information inside there, or you could have created categories in here if you so desire, if you have that volume of data. All right, so I'll go back over it one more time. The first top layer is the year. And business documents here would be your certificate is you've gotten from company's office, perhaps your TCC, your company operations manuals, your bylaws, etc. You'd store in the business documents, and these are kind of like permanent stuff. 2024 for the year, 2025, etc. And then when you go down deeper, you have categories, so expenses, GCT returns, payroll returns, utilities. And then when you go deeper into that, you have the actual files. Usually PDF documents is good, or if you use your phone, PNG, JPEG as well. I would recommend that whenever you get the receipts from the point of sale machines, those usually fade. So take a picture of them as soon as you can, so that way if it fades, at least you have the digital copy of it. So keep the physical copy. And again, you're breaking it down by category, but you have more detail in terms of breaking it down by month. Then you go put the numeric value first, 01 for January, 02. And then in that folder, you have the actual documents. So this is a way to digitally store information. And it's probably the best way, because accountants would now have access to the source documents without needing to have this box of paper that you'd have to travel around with. You can keep your paper, keep it safe and secure, and give them access, or anybody access, to the digital version. And because it's online, you can restrict who has access to what. So they can allow them to be able to edit or just read only. All right, so you need to keep your records secure. So if you have a physical filing cabinet, make sure you have a way to lock it, fireproof it, restrict who has access to it. If it's in an office, you can close office doors so persons don't have access to it. Persons can use information for fraud, etc. Use strong passwords. Most persons would be familiar with two-factor authentication by now, because pretty much most websites have it. Make sure on your computers, if you're running software locally like QuickBooks, make sure you have antivirus software, your operating system is up to date, and in sensitive files, you put them away or where possible, password protected. So, for example, Excel has a password feature. You could export information that is sensitive, and what you would do is put a password on there, so that way, without that password, that information will be locked away. If you're doing it locally and not in the cloud, make sure you have a good backup system. So you have your external hard drive to keep backing up these documents, these Excel files, etc. And even though it's in the cloud, you may want to keep a copy locally in case something happens, right? And where possible, use automated backup software and not just manually copy and paste the files. Use something that would actually read it. So I'm more familiar with Macs, but so Mac has something called time machine, and therefore you plug it in and it automatically backup for you. I'm sure Windows has the same thing. Head Office has password for you to log in and authenticate, yes. Retention guidelines was asked earlier by, who was it? Rowan Wilson, sorry, I hope I'm not butchering your name. it requires for at least 6 years. So 6 years from the date. So if you did it in 2021, it was January, you'd have to keep it until 2027. So make sure you keep it for at least 6 years and keep the physical documents, as I don't think the act has really updated to be digital. Whilst I know the tax office is forward thinking and they will accept the digital form, it's best based on a legal requirement to keep the physical documents as well. So buy banker boxes and store the physical documents inside there. And of course, if you have like a shelving system, you put them to raise them off the floor. So that way, if there's flooding or water, it doesn't damage the documents themselves. And I personally, unfortunately, experienced where water has come in and damaged files for me. So again, keep it for at least 6 years. Make sure you keep all your returns as well, because sometimes systems glitch and you want to make sure that you have your own copy of it. But for the most part, that is far and few between. But it's wise to make sure that you have your own copy of it as well. Remember to keep your documents for your hero stuff as well for 6 years. Your articles of incorporation, registration documents from company's office, your bylaws, your operation agreements is permanent. Never ever destroy them. Keep them. Even after you close the company, it's just usually just a small file. Keep it because you never know when you might need to do something with it. In some random cases, you might even need to reopen the company to deal with any legal proceedings. You should keep those documents permanently. So don't discard them. So if you have contracts, keep them 6 years after the contract agreement ends, at least 6 years. So when you sign documents for people, say I'm doing this kind of work, terms of service, blah, 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 etc., keep those at least 6 years after you've signed the agreement. Because you never know when you might need to use those documents for legal reasons. Retain records for hiring, termination, statutory deductions, 6 years or longer if required by your industry. And always verify with TAJ or any legal professional if special circumstances or industry rules apply to you. So every company is different. Make sure you know what applies to you based on your industry and the laws that govern your industry. Of course, review periodically and purge. So if 6 years have passed, you can shred the documents, or if it's digital, you can simply delete the folder if you so desire, and just to keep the clutter, because it's physical files. So after a while, they're going to be a lot. For 6 years of files being stored, it's going to be quite a bit. And of course, if things like now we have our DPA for privacy and so on, we need to make sure that we dispose of in a way that is in keeping with legal requirements. So make sure that you follow DPA guidelines in terms of how you should handle and manage data. And in some cases, it might require you to keep data for longer, depending on what it is. And make sure that you do it in a very careful manner to make sure that nobody actually shred it or you tear it up. Nobody can pick it up from the garbage and then reassemble the information. So be very careful how you dispose of it. That's the sensitive information, and with the DPA, you can be fined for exposing people's information. Of course, as things go on and improve and your business gets better, you'll be able to know, learn from that. You'd have to speak to either an accountant or a lawyer to find out what legal guidelines before, but you can look at different acts that are there. So Digital Protection Act is there, and the Tax Act is there as well that you can use to learn exactly what is specific to you. Thanks, Nikisha. So of course, if you make sure that you're doing your record keeping or if doing returns, you're using the correct documents. So for example, the Form 4A has been updated. Make sure you're using the correct version of the Form 4A. Right, so make sure you keep checking TAJ to see what's the latest information. For example, the SO1 form that we know breakdown in terms of NHT, NIS, and so on, it is being suggested that those laws are going to change and we're going to have one simple thing. So therefore, I suspect that SO1 form would change to be simplified to in keeping with what the potential regulation is going to be in the future. So something for you to listen out to as well. And of course, depending on your accounting software, you need to keep it aligned with these things. So if you're using QuickBooks, Xero, etc., you make sure that whatever rules need to be applied inside the software, you need to keep us up to date. Whereas head office, we will do those things for you where possible. So if it's a new form, the forms will be automatically changed that you're using. So ensure your employees understand the statutory obligations and what they should be paying and shouldn't be paying and how much they should pay. And the payroll deductions and so on. So they understand exactly what they should see. So when you look at their information, it can be accurate. Schedule routine checks to confirm compliance, to catch errors early. You don't want to not check these things. And I'll share a story. It was very unfortunate. We several years ago, probably 10, maybe even 20 years now past, we usually buy the books, the receipt books, and from the stationery stores, and then you fit it in, tear it off and give the customer one, etc. And you have the carbon copy of it. So what happened was that this particular book that we bought, we didn't realize it wasn't numbered. And therefore, when we were audited, unfortunately, they said that there's no way to check that the information is not missing any pages, like, would have torn out something, and therefore we had to assess us based on what they thought was how much we earned as opposed to what was actually in the books. So it's very important to check these things. So you have your receipt books, is it numbered? Is it when you write information on there, is it eligible? Of course, if you're using technology, like an accounting software, then this wouldn't matter. But if you are using these physical books, be sure to double check them, because we paid a hefty fine simply because we missed that the numbers weren't in this particular print of the book. It's in other versions, but somehow the print messed up on that particular one, and then we suffered as a result. So before I continue, are there any questions around what I've shared so far?
Carrie, the
Questions?
questions have been coming in the chat, so I suspect if they have any more, they'll just drop them in there. I have one, but I will wait for a little bit. And it's not really a question, but go ahead and complete, what you're doing, and then we'll get back there.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Are you seeing my browser window now?
Yes, we're seeing it.
All right, wonderful. So head office is an accounting solution and a payroll solution and a tax return solution. So what that means is that we go from end to end for everything. All right, so if you have multiple companies, head office will be able to show to deal with them individually. So you cannot have as many companies as you want, and it's cloud-based. So all you need is a browser to be able to use it. So I'll show you something that's important first, and why record keeping is not just for tax returns, but also for you. So if you're doing the record keeping, and you're making sure you keep all your records intact, and you're keeping it up to date on a daily, weekly basis, as the case might be, then you can extract information. So with head office, for example, if you're doing your proper record keeping, it'll actually give you an idea of how much days of cash you have left. So you notice here, there's 28 days of cash. Of course, that is very good information. And it says that there's $6 million that is on the road for you. So you know that there's a lot of money on the road, and therefore, if payroll is coming up, you need to make sure to collect this money. Of course, if this number was very low, then you need to increase your sales. And of course, you can see how much your average daily spend over the last year is, how much money you have in the bank, and therefore you're able to make business decisions on what you can buy, cannot buy, what you need to delay, or where you need to ramp up on in terms of his sales or not. So record keeping is not just for taxes. It is for your own personal decision making as well. So let's do something real quick here. So when you record your invoices, you could use Excel to create your invoices, That's a way to do it, not recommended. Use a solution, whether it be QuickBooks Zero or, of course, head office, because then there's digital record that you can actually track and see what's happening to see what is paid, what is unpaid, what is partially paid, and so on. So let's look at this partially paid invoice. I'm going to just go ahead and record this payment. And let's say it's a check in local bank. Record the payment. Right, so this is now marked as paid. Now, remember when I said good record keeping, why it's important? Because now, when you go back to your progress report, to now show us is 49 days of cash left. So if you're doing proper record keeping, you'd have this real-time information to inform us to what to do. So clearly, if you only have 600,000 on the road and you have a particular payroll that your bank balance can't cover, you need to do more things, do more sales, etc. So this is very important, a very good reason, not just for taxes, but for also business information that you need to be able to make decisions. So head office allows you to create your invoices, do inventory as well, services, set your services as well. I won't go into auto detail. You can schedule a one-on-one demo with me afterwards if needs be. But I just want to just go over just a quick overview. So you're able to, okay. Thanks, Ishika, for that question. I'll answer that shortly. So you're able to create as a draft, you can create it as an invoice. It also goes through the process of allowing you to go from estimates to pro forma invoices. So you can go from estimates. So you can convert an estimate to a pro forma invoice. And of course, then that can be submitted to the person. There's an opportunity for you to be able to edit the information, if so desired. And then when that pro forma invoice is created, you can also then create that convert a pro forma invoice to an invoice which can now be sent to the person. And of course, this has this is now posted to your books, and therefore it will recognize the revenue as well as related to GCT. So it's a good way to manage the workflow. So we have everything from estimates to pro forma to invoices. And if it's something that in terms of, we talk about automated invoices, so you need to build somebody on a monthly basis, like you retain a customer, you need to come in here and then create recurrent invoices as well. So this automates everything, so that record keeping that you need to do to remember, say, oh, I need to pay this customer. You can forget about it now because it's in the system, so that we don't lose the revenue that you should have gotten or delay being paid because you didn't record a transaction. So this should automate everything for you. You can set it for weekly, monthly, yearly, etc. Similarly, expenses. You need to track your expenses as well. So recording your expenses, whether it be your JPS bill, your water bill, expense from your suppliers, etc., you will need to be able to track this as well. So this is where it comes in, and you can see what is unpaid, what is partially paid, and what you have paid, similar to how invoices are. And this is very important because for tax purposes, it is revenue less expenses give you the profit, and then profit is the taxes are charged based on your profit. So if you do not record all the expenses, it means that you'll be paying more taxes than you should, and you don't want that. So this is why record keeping is important. So all your expenses, all the receipts, everything, even if you don't think it's relevant, keep it safe and give it over to your accountant for them to decide whether this applies or not based on what the regulations or rules applies to your company, right? So I see the comments coming in about cost. I'll answer that shortly. So again, you can record the payment here, and there's, in terms of, I just want to mention about security. Let me jump back to invoices real quick. There's actually an audit trail. So you can see if changes were made, to the invoices and payments, payment history. So I'll tell you a story that happened and why audit trails are very important. So whichever system you're using, you need to make sure there's an audit trail. So you'll be able to manipulate the system. A friend of mine actually has a business and they were selling things. So a friend of his, it's called John and Mary. Mary came in and bought the stuff. And then Mary left and called John and said, hey, you know what? I don't need all these things. Can I get a refund on some of these things? The invoice was for $100,000. And then Mary comes in and John says, you know what? Don't go to the cashier. Just come to me and I'll hand it for you. No problem. Mary comes in and presents John with $100,000 invoice. And what happens is that when he checks the system for that invoice number, the amount on the system is saying $40,000. So $60,000 was missing based on the invoice information. And what John discovered was that his employees were going in back into the system because he doesn't have an audit trail, so he doesn't even know who or how many, and altering the invoices post, again, security restrictions, and therefore they're pocketing monies. And he would never have known because what's in the till and what's on the system matched, but the invoices given to the customers was different, and therefore they're able to pocket $60,000. And this is a real story. And therefore audit trail and those kind of things are important. That's why it is in the head office. You have contacts. So yes, it's Ron is able to produce financial statements. You have your contacts. This is a mini CRM. So as you add suppliers and your vendors and so on, you're able to do it. So what's also important when you're doing record keeping is that you need to know what kinds of customers you're serving. So for Jamaica, we have zero rated, such as schools and so on, and tax withheld entities like government agencies. So when you're doing record keeping, you need to make sure that you note which is which, because it impacts how your taxes are done. So for example, if they're zero rated, then you would not charge them DCT, tax withheld. They would supply a withholding document to TAJ, which you then can claim back for your taxes on. So it's very important to not only record the contact details, but to say what kind of classification applies to your customers. So if it's zero rate or tax withheld for Jamaica, and that does that. If your software doesn't support these classifications, then you need to find some other way to tag them so you can be able to query and so on, query and get the information when doing tax returns. So let's jump to the questions about reports. So these are the reports. So you have the aging reports for payables and receivables. You have a cash flow. You have customer statements. You have your payrolls reports, inventory reports, and can you just look at the income statement real quick? And over this period, it will show you the sales, your gross profit, your selling administrative costs, and of course your operating profit or loss, as in this case. So there are several reports and pretty much other reports that you need, and we'll be always be adding new reports as there's a desire. So I think I've answered Ron and Curlin's questions. There are very few graphs inside. The only graphs that are in there right now is about the progress report. So you can track see the trends analysis of your sales right here. We'll be adding more as we go along. Is head office free? No, it's not free. It's an investment of $49 per month. Starting and get 20 employees for payroll. Is it better than QuickBooks? Yes, it is, because it's localized, and I'll show you why in a second, Francine. And so it's $49 per month. If you don't do GST returns, $18 per month if you do GST returns. And it does payroll to get 20 employees out of the box that you do, and then there's a per charge for employees after. So the question is how safe it is. So we're deployed to Amazon Web Services. So that security for hack attempts and so on, we're protected by whatever known threats Amazon is aware of and protected. In terms of how your data is stored, the data is anonymized. So even if you dump the data, not to get too technical, there's no way for you to correlate information to join tables like that to get information on whose information it is, because the data is anonymized in the database as well. secure connection is established between so this is, so just to be clear, this is running on my local machine. That's why this says not secure, but online, the actual website, it is actually secured with SSL, the same technology that banks use. So it's also secure there as well. So I hope I've answered the questions, HQ. So it's $49 per month, 49. And why is head office better than QuickBooks? The first one is that payroll is integrated. So you can come in here on your payroll. Yes, so it's created by local individuals. The company, because we got funding, is based out of the US, but it's a Jamaican company through and through. So you're able to, it supports multiple currencies. Yes, it does. There is an ability for you to make an adjustment. So if you wanted to pay Jill a bonus, and let's pay her 1, 2, 3, 12,340. Let's add that. Let's call it JBDC bonus. And let's run the payroll. You can run weekly, fortnightly, monthly payrolls as well. So, and Zoom is killing my machine. It doesn't usually run this slowly. It also has an employee portal, so employees will be able to log in and see their pay slips. So you'll be able to come in here and go look at your payroll that was just run, so you can see the details. So you can see the breakdown of the different statutory deductions that need to happen. In the case of if any third-party payments like loans, you see that as well, because it manages loans as well. And any perks such as motor vehicle, that is handled as well. Pension is there as well. And of course, the year-to-date values. And of that JBDC bonus that we entered, that shows up here as well. And then you can either roll back if something is incorrect, like you left something off, or you can approve it. So typically what would happen is you have a separate payroll system from QuickBooks. Then you run this in that payroll solution, and then you'd have to make entries in QuickBooks for it to work. So because this is integrated, the machine does not like Zoom. Because it's integrated, and you can close the payroll out, you'll be able to know, come here, look at the journal entries. So the period that we just ran just now, show you the breakdown for the journal entries. And someone asked about multi-currency, as you can see here, there's a currency amount in JMD, so it could have been USD, etc. And the debits and credits in Jamaican dollars. Because we report in Jamaican dollars, it's always been, the debits and edits should always be in the Jamaican dollars. So taking that a step further to say, why is this a better solution? Tax returns is built in. So the SO1 form. And of course, it allows to track the information, so what was outstanding from, etc. Because it's a demo, I haven't submitted these things. Let's generate this document. Of course, we don't submit SO1s anymore, but this is just to show you what it would look like. So you can print it. It actually copies information onto the TAJ website to be used. So let me know if you can see the form come up. Because I know sometimes with these things, it only shows us particular tab. So the form was generated, nothing for you to do, no expertise required, because all of the tax rules, tax regulations are built into the software. So unlike QuickBooks, you wouldn't get information from QuickBooks. You'd have to use a third-party software along with QuickBooks to achieve this result. Similarly, for anybody who has ever done GCT, you do GCT in a similar fashion to generate information. And IT02, which is due March 15, similar fashion where we do the income statement, your statement of position, get information from that, and then your depreciation, as I mentioned, depreciation, you remove the depreciation and add back capital allowance, something that QuickBooks does not do as well. It doesn't have a fixed asset registry, whereas head office does. So if you want to track your depreciation, it's depreciate, bring it current. So while it does it, it will bring everything from the time of purchase to date to the previous month and show the monthly depreciation that is taken out. And again, all this is happening in the background, nothing for you to learn, nothing for you to do. Just simply is built into the software in a user-friendly way. And you can see the breakdown here, and it has been totally expensed and depreciated. So therefore, the last month is $13,000. It has security access, so you can limit persons as to what they can see and can't see. So if you wanted somebody to only enter invoices on the system, you could do that. Or if you want somebody to only enter expenses, you can do it as well, and you can restrict reports. So you can see depreciation here as well. HR module, I'm to jump back to HR. Caroline had asked about HR. So here you have the HR, your team members, and you're able to click through and look at their profile, so their date of birth, their personal information, driver's license, etc. And you're able to specify how many, their monthly payroll, fortnight, etc., and their position. Their employment history, because persons may come and go, so the employment history will be here, and can track their assets. If you issue them a laptop, a phone, etc., you can track what assets, their attendance. Can come in here and look at their pay slips as well. So you can see the history of that, any adjustments that you would have made to them. So in this case, this person has 2 loans with the company, so you have to track it as well. The salary packages, which could be annual or hourly, depending on how you pay them. And of course, timesheets that you can track overtime pay as well, and that will pulled into the system automatically. And there's pension, as I mentioned, so they can specify what's their pension contribution, and if they're retired or they're a pensioner. And of course, those things affect how we treat them, because there are regulations around somebody who's retired who's working for you, or somebody who's a pension is working for you, or somebody who's both. The system takes cares of that. And for the last, not the last, and there are other things, but for the last bit in terms of to run up the taxes, it actually generates a tax bill for you. So you note here, you see the breakdown of how much taxes you own per statutory deduction, and you note here there's a hard credit. So we take all the regulations into consideration, and therefore the credit that you should have gotten for hard. Some systems, some accountants, some bookkeepers generally forget, or because you didn't inform them that this person is a hard individual, then you'd have lost that tax credit. I mean, it's small, but every mickle make a muckle. And of course, you can record a payment. And we've made the system flexible in that you don't need to pay everything all at once. What you can do is that, cash flow is tight, you're able to reduce how much you actually need to pay. And of course, the system would then track to show how much. I need to select these things right here, sorry. Check. You need to be able to track the principal that is owed on it. So here it's a partially paid, and then it shows you the difference. So you have to track everything inside there. There are 2 more questions. Let me scroll down. It's a one-to-one session with free consultation. I know this. If you want to do a demo, that's free. You to customize the payslips of parents. Right now, you won't be able to customize the payslip of parents. They're kind of standardized. But if something that is in demand by many persons, we will look at giving away to customize it. But all the information and details are there. They can print it off. They can log into the portal and view their payslips and print it off themselves if so desired. It has quickly drilled down to. So for sole traders, so you can still use the system. It's still better than not having a system because record keeping is important. So you want to have a system that actually allows to track your income, your expenses, and anything that you might be doing. We launched last year with a pilot, and THA actually reviewed us January last year and gave us a nod that what we had in terms of payroll, etc., was up and running and clean. So we're now going to be opening it up to the public to be able to purchase head office. So you can actually have as many bank accounts as you want. And you're able to, as you can see here, the different currencies. So this is US dollars, this is TTD, this is Jamaican dollars. And of course, you can see the details, you can search for details. There's also bank reconciliation, so you can see that these transactions were reconciled. So you can import from your bank and then do the reconciliation in head office as well. So we have a number of persons using head office, from customs brokers to media companies to production companies using head office. So, and if there's something that we do as well. So if you see a bank transaction, you're able to move from the bank to the actual source document. So you can see what the details are for that banking transaction. So in this case, it's just an expense here. So everything is tied and integrated together. And see if I'm leaving anything out that's important. We're able to track investments. If the company has extra cash and does investments like stocks and so on, you can actually track it here. You can issue loans to other persons or team members, or you can track your received loans as well. Media, so service-based business, so media companies are the most popular. I'm using app right now, but it can be used for all industries, retail, etc. As I mentioned that. So you can see products, services, and you can create a purchase order. So you can track what items you have received. You can do stock adjustments. You can add a bill for the received items, or can actually receive the items themselves. So this is fully received, but you could actually have received extra, so you can actually record it as well. And of course, it adjusts your bill. If it is that you do imports, you can actually add an import bill on it as well, and it will adjust your cost of sales accordingly. So therefore, when your income statement will actually reflect the correct gross profit as a result. So all of that is being done in the head office. So I'm reading Caroline's question. So AI isn't built in as yet, but we are going to be doing AI, especially for bank reconciliation, because that's probably one of the most tedious things that you do in accounting. So we're looking at using AI to automate that process. So as soon as the information is imported, AI will take the first stab at it to make sure that it can match as many things as possible. And then the exceptions is you then hand over to someone in the organization to then review and say, hey, these things are missing, or these things there's something wrong with these things, or we can't match them, and therefore you'll be able to do it. Purchase orders aren't able to be emailed to your suppliers, but we definitely can put that in. Again, I am the CEO and founder, and therefore any feature functionality that needs to be added, just a matter of communicating with me as we build out the software. So we're launching version 1, and we'll be able to grow it as we continue. All the essential features are there, they're working, and we're about to formally launch the product in a few weeks. But it's been up and running for almost a year now. And persons have done their tax returns, they've been running their businesses on it for a year. There isn't a direct point of sale option in here, but we do have an app that's coming out that would handle the point of sale in a couple of months. So that will be there eventually. So just to give you a bit more, Caroline, head office is actually a Techstars and JP Morgan backed company. So whilst it's not just me or sole individual that's running it, but I mean backed by the largest bank in the world. They've actually funded head office, and they actually play a pivotal role in terms of what we do and what we on how we do business. Techstars is US's number 2 accelerator, number 1 in terms of investments, and they have invested in head office through JP Morgan as well. So we have a proper financial backing and from some of the largest organizations.
All right, the questions have been coming in fast and furious, Carrie.
Yes,
But
I
we
see
want to
them.
wrap it up. We want to wrap it up now. So I am going to just allow one more
What?
question, and I see where Carolyn is asking who or what is your top competitor? I hope that's what she's asking.
So surprisingly, it's not who you think. It's not QuickBooks or Xero. It's actually Excel. Because most persons are doing it manually, which is a challenge. And of course, if you mess up a formula in Excel, then the whole thing gets whacked or it gets corrupted and so on. So it's really Excel, but there's QuickBooks system, but they're only the payroll. We're the only solution that does all 3 things: accounting, payroll, and tax returns. Let me put my contact details up here. So you're able to visit the website. It's headoffice.app/Jamaica for the Jamaican version of it, because we'll be going to other Caribbean territories in the future. So you can find the details here for Jamaica. And of course, if you're on social media, you can follow us. Most places we're head office app, as you can check it out. And of course, you can email me, Carolina. I do welcome the feedback. So if you're able to send me an email, so we can arrange something like that to get more feedback. I like the questions you're asking, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I feel like I'm butchering it. Hopefully, I'm not. So yes, so on the website, you're able to sign up for a demo. So you can sign up for a demo, one-on-one demo with me, and can schedule the time that's time slot that you want.
Okay, and just for clarity, is the demo free or is
It's
there
free,
a
yeah, man.
cost
It's
of it?
free. No, the only cost is the
Okay,
piece
so
when you start using the
everyone,
software.
so someone asked and they said, I'm not sure if you missed my question, but yes, Charlene, the demo is free. So just copy the contact information that is now on screen to ensure that you are able to touch bases with Carrie after we log off here today. For the benefit of everyone else who joined a little late, yes, the session was recorded and it will be available on the JBDC's YouTube page. So just go onto YouTube and subscribe. And of course, once the recording has been published, you will be notified of that. His email address, Mr. Sharp, just dropped his email address in the chat, so you can go ahead and copy it from there. But it's also available right on your screen. A reminder to you as well that you can log on to our website, which is www.jbdc.net. Very simple. Worst case scenario, put in jbdc.net and you'll see our information pop up. Of course, we are also on all social media platforms, that being LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Please feel free to subscribe and follow us. We publish very important information every single day that can help you to grow your business or to even come up with a big business idea. Not sure. But we want to thank you, Carrie, for coming on this morning and sharing such information with us. This information will be useful to us as we move into the tax season, not just this year, but also next year. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, he said that there is a 6 year period that you need to keep your records for. So thank you so much, Carrie, for coming in and sharing with us. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And as I said before, please feel free to connect with either us or Kari, as the information has been posted about contacting us as well. And Kari's information is on screen as well. So thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Cheers.
you.